So, I, 32, female, never thought I'd be the kind of person spilling my heart out on the internet at 3 in the morning, but here I am. I can't sleep. My chest feels tight. My thoughts are all over the place, and no amount of tea or scrolling on my phone has helped. I guess writing it all down might be the only way to get it out of my system. Let me take you back about 5 years because that's really where it all started. My sister, Jen, 34, female, has always been the golden child in our family. She was the straight A student, the overachiever, the one who always had a plan and followed it to the letter. She went to a great college, landed a solid job right after graduation, and met her now husband, Michael, 36, male, around that same time. Meanwhile, I was still trying to figure out what I wanted to do with my life. I bounced around a bit, worked different jobs, and tried out some creative paths, traveled a little. Nothing stuck for long. When Jen and Michael got married, I was 27 and she was 29. It was a huge wedding, like borderline ridiculous. My parents went all out and probably more than they could afford, and Jen soaked up every bit of the attention. I was the maid of honor, of course. I smiled through it all, made the speeches, helped with the planning. Honestly, I was happy for her, even though our relationship has always been complicated. She's not a bad person, but she's always been kind of dismissive towards me, like I was the messy, less accomplished sibling she had to tolerate. Michael and I weren't close, not even when they were dating. We were polite to each other at family events, but we never had much to say to one another. I always got a weird vibe from him, nothing I could put my finger on, just a gut feeling that everything was off. But Jen seemed happy, and he treated her well enough from what I could see, so I let it go. I didn't want to be the paranoid sister who can't let her sibling be happy. The first red flag came a few months after the wedding. Michael started texting me more often. At first, it seemed innocent. He asked for help planning surprises for Jen or advice on what to get her for her birthday. That kind of stuff. I thought, okay, maybe he's just trying to get closer to the family. But then the text started getting a little weird. He'd ask about my dating life, comment on my photos like looking good or bet the guys are lining up. He'd make these offhand jokes that had a flirty or even edge to them. I tried to laugh it off or ignore it, but it made me uncomfortable. I didn't know how to handle it. I tried to draw boundaries without making it a big thing. I figured if I didn't feed into it, he'd get bored and stop. But nope. Things escalated one evening when I was at their house helping Jen prep for a dinner party. She had gone upstairs to change, and I was alone in the kitchen with Michael. That's when he cornered me and told me, totally serious, that he'd always had a thing for me, that there was a special connection between us, and that we should explore it. I honestly felt like I was going to throw up. I was so shocked. I just stood there for a second before I told him very clearly that what he was saying was disgusting and I would never betray my sister like that. His response? He smirked and said I was overreacting and that he was just joking. I left that night feeling sick to my stomach. I debated telling Jan, but I didn't want to blow up her marriage over something that, at the time, I hoped was just a one-time slip. I figured he'd embarrassed himself and would back off now that he knew I wasn't going to play along. I started distancing myself, making excuses not to come over, dodging family events and keeping things surface level. A few weeks later, my entire world got flipped upside down. Jen called me out of nowhere, completely hysterical. I could barely understand what she was saying at first. She was crying so hard. But then she said something that stopped me cold. She thought I was having an affair with Michael. I thought I misheard her, but no. She said that Michael had confessed to her that I'd been coming on to him for months, sending him flirty texts, trying to kiss him, even begging him to leave her for me. He told her he kept it quiet because he didn't want to hurt her, but he couldn't live with the guilt anymore. I was speechless. My heart dropped. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I told her the truth immediately, that he had come on to me, that I'd rejected him, and that I had the text to prove it. I offered to show her our entire message history, but she refused. She said Michael had already shown her deleted messages that proved I was lying, messages that I never sent. I knew right then he had faked the screenshots or doctored something to make it look like I was the one pursuing him. Jen told everyone, I mean everyone, my parents, extended family, our childhood friends, her work friends. Suddenly, I was the homewrecker, the jealous younger sister trying to steal her sister's husband. My phone blew up for days. Some people were angry, others were disappointed. Almost nobody asked me what really happened. They just took her word for it. My parents didn't even try to get both sides. They told me I needed to apologize and move on, that I was causing trouble and hurting the family. I was beyond heartbroken. I couldn't believe how fast they all turned on me. The only people who stood by me were my younger brother, Jake, who's always had my back, and a couple of close friends who knew me well enough to see through the BS. Eventually, I couldn't take it anymore. I felt completely isolated and betrayed. I ended up taking a job opportunity in Colorado and moved out of Michigan entirely. It wasn't just for the job, it was for my sanity. I needed a fresh start, away from all the judgment and whispers. It was the hardest thing I've ever done, but also the best decision I've made. In Colorado, I built a new life. I made new friends and threw myself into work, found peace in just being away from all the drama. I eventually started dating again and met my current boyfriend, Chris, who has been nothing but kind and supportive from day one. He knows everything and still looks at me like I hung the moon. Honestly, it's been a big part of my healing. As for my family, well, it's complicated. I talk to Jake all the time, and he even came to visit me last year. My parents and I have a weird truce. We keep it polite and shallow. We talk on holidays and birthdays, but we avoid anything real. Jen and I haven't spoken at all. Not a text, not a call, nothing. I've missed so many family events just to avoid seeing her. Christmases, Thanksgivings, even our grandma's 80th birthday. I hated missing that. But I just couldn't put myself through the tension and fake smiles. Fast forward, just 3 days ago, I was working from home, sitting at my desk and going through emails, when I got a text from a number I didn't recognize. I opened it without thinking much, and to my surprise, it was from Jen. After 5 years of silence, it was weird seeing her name pop up like that. Her message said she needed to talk to me and that it was urgent. I stared at the screen for a while, debating whether to ignore it. Part of me didn't want to open that door again, but something about the message made me pause. Eventually, curiosity and maybe even a little concern got the better of me, and I called her. She answered almost immediately, and I could hear she was crying, like full on sobbing. It took a minute to even make out what she was saying, but the short version is this. She had just found out that Michael had been cheating on her, not just with one person, multiple women over several years. It wasn't some rumor or vague suspicion either. She had seen the proof with her own eyes. He'd left his phone unlocked and she found messages, photos, all kinds of explicit stuff. One of the women was her co-worker. Another was their next door neighbor. There were more, but those two hit the hardest. And then came the real gut punch. When she confronted Michael, he didn't even try to deny it. In fact, he came clean about everything, including the lie he told her about me. He admitted that he made up the whole story years ago. According to Jen, he said I had rejected him and he was afraid I'd tell her what really happened. So instead, he flipped the narrative. He told her I was the one coming on to him, that I was trying to ruin their marriage just to make sure she wouldn't believe me if I ever tried to speak up. It was a preemptive strike, and it worked. Hearing that, even secondhand, knocked the air out of me, and for years I had lived under the weight of a lie. Knowing the truth, but having no one believe me. And now the person who helped spread that lie was crying to me, asking for help. Jen said she had kicked Michael out of the house, which, by the way, is still in both their names. And now he was threatening her. He told her that if she didn't let him come back, he'd make her life miserable. She tried telling our parents and some of our extended family and mutual friends what he'd done. She told them about the cheating, about the emotional abuse, about the lie he told about me, but no one really believed her. Apparently, Michael had spent the last few years carefully crafting his image of being the perfect, devoted husband, while slowly painting Jen as unstable, dramatic, and emotional. So when she finally exposed him, people assumed she was just being her usual self. The irony is that the version of her people believe now is the one he created to protect himself. That's when she asked if she could come and stay with me in Colorado. She said she had nowhere else to go, and most of our family is still in Michigan, and the ones who know what's going on either don't believe her or are telling her to just work things out with Michael. She said she couldn't take it anymore being in that house around people who thought she was lying, while Michael kept trying to manipulate the situation. She also apologized. She told me she was sorry for not believing me all those years ago and that she finally understood what kind of person Michael really was. And now I'm stuck. There's a part of me that feels a little vindicated, if I'm being totally honest. For years, I was made out to be the villain. I was left out of holidays, treated like some homewrecker, distanced from my own family. I missed out on so much because of that lie. I kept quiet, held my head down, and tried to move forward. And now, the truth is finally out, and it doesn't undo the damage, but at least I'm not the crazy sister anymore. But then there's the other part of me that's just angry, hurt, tired. Jen didn't just believe Michael. She actively helped him turn people against me. She told our parents, she told our friends, she shut me out and never even gave me a chance to explain. Now she wants to stay in my home, like all of that never happened. Chris, my boyfriend, thinks I should let her stay. He said she's still my sister and clearly in a bad place, and this could be a chance to rebuild things. My brother Jake, who's always been on my side, said I should be careful. He doesn't think Jen is lying, but he worries this could stir up old wounds or drag me back into drama I worked so hard to leave behind. My best friend, who saw how much this all wrecked me back then, thinks I should say no. She feels like Jen made her choices and now she has to live with them. I'm honestly torn. I know what it feels like to be alone and have no one believe you. I wouldn't wish that on anyone. And I can see Jen is hurting and scared, but at the same time, I've built something peaceful here. My home is my safe space. I worked hard to heal and move on. Letting her in might reopen old wounds I'm not sure I've fully closed. So now I don't know what to do. If I say no, am I being cruel, petty, or just protecting myself? And if I say yes, how do I set boundaries to make sure I don't get hurt again? Update 1. First, I want to thank everyone for their advice and support. I've been overwhelmed by the responses and have spent a lot of time thinking about what to do. After talking it over with Chris and doing some serious soul searching, I decided to help Jen, but with clear boundaries. I called her back and told her she could stay with me for 2 weeks while she figures out her next steps. But that this isn't a permanent solution, and we would need to have some difficult conversations about what happened between us. She arrived yesterday afternoon. The 5 hour flight from Michigan to Colorado seemed to have given her time to collect herself, but she still looks exhausted and frankly broken. It's strange seeing my once confident older sister looking so defeated. When she saw me at the airport, she broke down crying again, repeating, "I'm sorry," over and over. It was awkward and painful, but also somewhat cathartic. Back at my apartment, I set up the guest room for her, and we had a long, tear filled conversation. She shared more details about Michael's betrayal, which only confirmed what a manipulative person he is. Apparently, he's been gaslighting her for years, making her question her own judgment and isolating her from friends who might have seen through his facade. When she found evidence of his affairs, he first denied everything and then tried to blame her for driving him to cheat because she was too focused on her career and not attentive enough. The most disturbing part was hearing how methodically he turned our family against me and established himself as this perfect son in law. He would tell subtle lies to my parents about me canceling plans last minute or making dismissive comments about family traditions, none of which were true. He positioned himself as the peacemaker who was trying to heal the rift while actually deepening it. When I asked Jen why she believed him so easily 5 years ago, she broke down again. She admitted that their marriage had already been showing cracks by then. Michael had been subtly undermining her self esteem and planting seeds of doubt about my character for months. He would say things like, "Your sister seemed flirty with me at dinner," or "Does your sister always dress so provocatively around other people's husbands?" When he finally made his accusation, she was primed to believe it. I won't lie, hearing this brought up a lot of anger that I thought I had moved past. I told her honestly that while I'm willing to help her now, I'm not ready to fully forgive and forget. She said she understands and that she doesn't expect immediate forgiveness. As for her current situation, she's contacted a lawyer about the divorce proceedings and is looking into getting a restraining order against Michael. He's been blowing up her phone with alternating threats and pleas for reconciliation, which she's been documenting. She's also reached out to a couple of the women he was cheating with who corroborated her story and provided additional evidence of his infidelity. The tricky part is our parents. They're still somewhat in denial about the whole situation. When Jen called to tell them she was staying with me, our mom suggested she was overreacting and that all marriages have rough patches. Our dad didn't say much but implied that she should try to work things out with Michael. It's clear that Michael has done a thorough job of cultivating his image with them. I'm still processing all of this, and it's emotionally draining having Jen here after so many years of estrangement. Chris has been amazing, giving up space when we needed it, but also providing a buffer when tensions rise. Him and Jen seem to get along well, which is both a relief and strangely disorienting. I'm taking things one day at a time, trying to maintain my boundaries while still being supportive. Jen has started looking for jobs in Colorado, which makes me a bit nervous about her expectations for how long she'll be staying. I need to have that conversation with her soon, but I'm waiting until she's a bit more stable. I'll update again when there are significant developments. Thanks again for all your support and advice. Update 2. Things have escalated quickly over the past few days and not in a good way. The morning after my last update, Jen received a call from one of her neighbors back in Michigan. Apparently, Michael went on some kind of rampage at their house, breaking furniture and putting holes in the walls. The neighbor called the police, who arrived to find him drunk and belligerent. He was arrested for destruction of property and disorderly conduct, but was released on bail the next morning. Jen was understandably terrified. She immediately called her lawyer, who advised her to file for an emergency restraining order, which she's in the process of doing remotely. The lawyer also suggested she document all the damage to strengthen her case for divorce proceedings. While all this was happening, Michael somehow got my phone number. He started texting me these long, rambling messages, alternating between threatening me for turning Jen against him and pleading with me to convince her to come back. I blocked his number immediately, but he then started calling from different numbers. I've been documenting everything and already contacted the local police department here in Colorado to report the harassment. The situation got even worse when our parents called. Somehow, Michael had gotten to them first and spun some story about how Jen was having a mental breakdown and had abandoned him without explanation. He claimed that I've always been jealous of their relationship and I'm manipulating Jen into leaving him. The most infuriating part, they believed him again. My mom was practically in tears, begging me to stop poisoning Jen against her husband and to send her home where she belongs. When I tried to explain that Michael was the one who had been lying and cheating, she accused me of making it up to create drama. My dad got on the phone and said that if I didn't fix this, I would no longer be welcome in their home. I lost my temper at that point and told them both that they needed to wake up and see Michael for who he really is. The call ended with my mom crying and my dad threatening to fly out to Colorado to bring Jen home. Jen overheard most of this conversation and was devastated. She tried calling our parents herself, but they either didn't pick up or kept the conversations brief, clearly not believing her side of the story. It's like we're caught in some twisted replay of what happened 5 years ago, except now we're both on the receiving end of the disbelief. In the midst of all this chaos, something unexpected happened. My brother Jake decided to get involved. After hearing about our parents' reactions, he did some digging on his own and he reached out to one of Michael's colleagues who he knew through a mutual friend, and what he discovered confirmed everything Jen had been saying. Apparently, Michael's cheating was something of an open secret at his workplace. This colleague even showed Jake messages from Michael boasting about his affairs. Jake confronted our parents with this information, but they're still in denial. They're now saying that even if Michael did cheat, it doesn't justify Jen running away instead of trying to work on their marriage. It's like they're determined to see Michael as the victim no matter what evidence is presented. On a more positive note, Jen has started therapy to deal with the emotional aftermath of Michael's betrayal and manipulation. Her therapist suggested she might be experiencing something akin to post-traumatic stress, considering how long she's been subjected to Michael's gaslighting and emotional abuse. It's been hard watching her jump at loud noises or break down in tears randomly, but I'm glad she's getting professional help. As for our living situation, I've extended my initial 2-week offer indefinitely. After seeing how Michael is behaving and how our parents are reacting, I can't in good conscience put a time limit on her stay. Chris is fully supportive of this decision, though we've agreed that if Jen decides to stay in Colorado long term, we'll help her find her own place eventually. Jen has also started applying for jobs here. She's got an impressive resume from her work in marketing back in Michigan, and she's already had a couple of promising phone interviews. I can see her slowly regaining some confidence and independence, which is encouraging. I'm still processing my own feelings about everything. On one hand, I'm angry at our parents for their continued blind spot when it comes to Michael. And on the other hand, I feel a growing reconnection with Jen that I never thought would be possible. We're not fully healed. There are still moments of tension and unspoken resentment, but we're talking more openly than we have in years. The most surreal part of all this is realizing how thoroughly Michael manipulated not just Jen, but our entire family. It's frightening to see how one person with enough charm and calculation can create such division and pain. I'll update again when there are more developments, but for now, we're focusing on keeping Jen safe, supporting her through the legal process, and trying to rebuild some semblance of sisterhood amid all this chaos. Update 3. I'm still trying to process everything that's happened in the last 72 hours. Just when I thought things couldn't get more intense, the situation took several dramatic turns. The day after my last update, Michael showed up at my apartment complex. Yes, he flew all the way from Michigan to Colorado without warning. I still don't know how he got my address, but I suspect he might have gone through my parents or possibly even tracked Jen's phone somehow. I was at work when it happened, but Jen was home alone. She texted me in a panic, saying that Michael was banging on the door and shouting for her to come out. She called 911 immediately, and thankfully, the police arrived quickly. They found Michael in the hallway, clearly agitated. According to the police report, he became combative when they tried to remove him from the building, which resulted in him being arrested for trespassing, disorderly conduct, and resisting arrest. I rushed home to find Jen having a full-blown panic attack. It took hours to calm her down. We ended up having to call a telehealth doctor who prescribed her some anti-anxiety medication. Chris came home early from work and suggested we stay at a hotel for the night just to be safe, which we did. The next morning, we received a call from the police department informing us that Michael was being held on bail, and given his behavior and the existing restraining order Jen had filed in Michigan, they were taking the situation seriously. They advised us to file for another restraining order here in Colorado, which we did immediately. While all this was happening, my phone was blowing up with calls and texts from my parents. Apparently, Michael had called them from jail, feeding them some story about how he had come to rescue Jen from my manipulation. Instead of questioning why their son-in-law was in jail for essentially stalking and harassing their daughters, they were furious with me for causing this situation. My mom even suggested that I had called the police on Michael unnecessarily to make him look bad. I was at my breaking point. I finally decided to do something I should have done 5 years ago. I gathered all the evidence I had, the inappropriate texts Michael had sent me back then, screenshots of his recent threatening messages, the police reports, statements from the women he had cheated with that Jen had collected, and even a voice recording Jen had made of Michael admitting to lying about me years ago. I compiled everything into a detailed email and sent it to my parents with a simple message. Here's the truth. Choose whether you want to be parents to your daughters or enablers to an abuser. I didn't expect much to come of it, honestly, but to my surprise, about 6 hours later, I got a call from my dad. His voice was different, subdued, almost broken. He said they had gone through everything I said and had also spoken with Jake, who had apparently been trying to convince them of Michael's true nature for days. My dad admitted that they had been blind and foolish, and that they were struggling to come to terms with how thoroughly they had been deceived. My mom got on the phone too, crying and apologizing for not believing me years ago and for their reaction to Jen's situation now. She revealed something that made a lot of things click into place. Michael had been financially supporting them for the past few years. He had offered to help with their mortgage when my dad faced some health issues and had to reduce his work hours. This financial dependence, combined with his careful manipulation, had made them especially resistant to seeing any flaws in him. They both apologized profusely and asked to speak with Jen. That conversation was even more emotional, with lots of tears and regrets expressed on all sides. They promised to support her through the divorce and offered to come to Colorado to help, though we all agreed it might be better to wait until the immediate crisis with Michael was resolved. Speaking of Michael, he was released on bail the following day, but with strict conditions, including staying a specified distance away from both Jen and me. His lawyer contacted Jen's lawyer, suddenly eager to discuss an amicable divorce settlement. I suspect his legal troubles here in Colorado made him realize that his usual manipulation tactics weren't going to work anymore. In the midst of all this drama, something unexpected and positive happened. Jen got a job offer from a marketing firm here in Denver. It's actually a step up from her position in Michigan, with better pay and more responsibility. She's excited about it, and it's the first time I've seen her genuinely smile in weeks. We've started looking at apartments for her, though she'll stay with us until everything is finalized with Michael and she feels safe living alone. Chris suggested we find something in our neighborhood so we could stay close, which I appreciate. As for my relationship with Jen, we're making progress. Yesterday we had a long, honest conversation about everything that happened 5 years ago. She apologized again for believing Michael over me, and I admitted I've been holding on to resentment that I need to work through. We both agreed to start seeing a family therapist to help navigate the rebuilding of our relationship. It won't be easy, and there's a lot of hurt to process, but for the first time in years, I feel hopeful that we might actually be able to be sisters again. One final note. Michael's facade seems to be crumbling in other areas of his life too. After news of his arrest made it back to Michigan, small towns, you know how it is, several other women have come forward with stories about his inappropriate behavior and advances. His company has placed him on administrative leave pending an investigation into harassment claims. It's like once one person spoke up, it created a domino effect. So that's where things stand now. Jen is starting her new job next week. Our parents are coming to terms with their role in this whole mess and trying to make amends. And Michael is facing consequences for his actions on multiple fronts. As for me, I'm exhausted but relieved that the truth has finally come to light. I want to thank everyone who offered advice and support throughout this ordeal. Your perspectives helped me navigate an incredibly difficult situation and ultimately do what I believe was right, even when it was hard. I've learned a lot about forgiveness, boundaries, and the importance of standing up for the truth, no matter how uncomfortable it might be. I'll post another update if there are significant developments, but for now, I'm focusing on healing and moving forward. Jen and I have a long road ahead of us to rebuild our relationship. But for the first time in 5 years, that road actually exists. Stay tuned for more stories from our girl relationships.